on a bit of a unique property today. We're on a friend's private property, and he's allowing us to collect along an occurrence that he found. It runs along a river bank, and there's some pretty interesting stuff here. Right now, this is, I believe, just like a plate of some like diopside-y pyroxene crystals. And then below me, we've got a huge, nice, big rock full of calcite you can see. And then you got mica, some nice mica books in there. And there's scapolites found here as well. And there's just like multiple areas along this river basically. And this spot is one of them, where the calcite kind of just pokes out and you got some very interesting mineral occurrences happening. Here are a couple that I just pulled out of the river. So I'm thinking that I'll dig right above where they were in the river. They might have been tossed there by one of my friends, but these seem to have some scum on it, so I think they've been in there for a while. It looks like all the calcite's been etched out, so I'm hoping they kind of just directly rolled down from where I found them, and I'll find a vein somewhere above. We know there's a vein kind of running there, so it might just be a continuation of that vein that these guys are from, or it could be another vein. There seems to be multiple veins of carrying the diopside, and then there's also scapolite and some sort of radioactives. We're getting some sort of radioactive readings, but let's see if we can chase down the vein that these guys came from. So I started digging over here, and this guy fell out, and you can already see right there is a pretty half decent diopside by the looks of it. So let's get this guy wetted down, one of the benefits of collecting right beside a river, and see what it looks like. Not great, but it's a good start. Before we go farther and look at more interesting field finds, I'd just like to say a quick thank you to my friend Aaron, who opened up his property to us to allow us to collect there. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun collecting with you on multiple trips this year, and I hope to do more trips with you in the future, Aaron. Thanks again. And another quick side note for you folks watching. If you haven't already, please do hit that like and subscribe button. It definitely helps out the channel, and I would really appreciate it. Now let's get back to the collecting. This one just rolled out on me. Now the terminations aren't perfect on it, but this is a promising sign that I'm following, chasing the source down. So hopefully we find some nice ones like this size with some good terminations. Just pulled out this lovely little cluster. It's double terminated. Here are the terminations on the one end. Then on the other end, it's flat terminations with just the tiniest bit of damage where they probably were either growing with a couple other crystals or were just attached to the calcite. You can see a little bit of the calcite is still attached to this cluster. That's nice. That makes me happy. It's definitely a trip maker already. I am basically just following up, scraping the soil, trying to sift through it to see if there is diopside-y material. Like this is a chunk of green pyroxene, but it doesn't have any crystal faces. But using that method, so far I found some decent little ones. Here's one. This one you can see all the crystal faces on. Once it'll clean up, hopefully clean up nicely and look cool. But yeah, I'm just kind of digging through here. I'm also finding lots of like shards of scapolite, but no whole ones yet. Scapolite tends to be pretty fragile, and it tends to fracture pretty easily and weather pretty easily, so finding a nice That's something interesting, I think. Maybe. Yeah, there's some rough crystalline shape in there, but nothing super exciting. But that's a good sign that we're heading in the right direction. I think this is some more chunks of diopside. More diopside, pyroxene chunks. Like, we're just looking for the crystalline stuff. The stuff that's got some nice crystallized faces to it. Every once in a while a piece like that will roll out. But it's, you know, it's not the hardest of digging. There are some roots in the way, but I've got a little hand saw which makes quick work of it. So I'm just gonna keep following this up to try and find the source. I think I know where it is. I suspect it's probably somewhere up here, but it's good to be thorough. Continuing to expand the slope. And these two rolled out of the same area. Some nice diopsides. Don't know if that's cleaved or if that's a... I think it's cleaved. It's hard to tell sometimes with the pyroxenes. Their cleavage and their terminations can look somewhat similar. But yeah, not that bad. Let's see if we can find some bigger ones. My friend Ashton actually pulled out a chunk with some huge ones in it, so they're here. You just gotta work for it. We'll do this quickly since it's a heavy boulder. But my friend Ashton just pulled out this piece. Look at those large crystals. And for size, those are some pretty insane large diopsides. Nice find, Ashton.
Thank you.
So I'm just a little farther down the river now. I was just over there past that tree. And I come to another spot. This is a spot one of my friends was chiseling away at, and he was finding some small but very nice gemmy scapolites. Here's an example. But hopefully, he said he left some in there. So hopefully I can pull out like a nice little thumbnail specimen out of there. There are scapolites here, but they're mostly pretty weathered and crunchy and broken down, or like you only get like a couple of the crystal faces at most. But we're gonna try. I think this here is the scapolite. This section, it's in a calcite. So I'm gonna try my luck at it and see what if I can get out at least one nice little thumbnail specimen with a nice gemmy little crystal. So this is the vein that has the scapolite, and there's this kind of green diopside-y pyroxene matrix material that's kind of beside it, and I just popped off a piece of that, and it was right up against the calcite vein, and it's got some really nice scapolites on there. Those are some very gemmy ones, and decent sized too for like how small I was seeing them before. And this one came out too, but this one has a pyrite crystal right where my thumb is. Let's see if we can get a closer look at that. Or it might be something else. I don't know. I think it's pyrite. So with this vein of scapolites, it seems to be a thin section of the calcite vein that has it. And then when it butts up against this pyroxene material, that's where you get the gemmy scapolites. So I'm going to continue, and I'm going to try and see how far it goes, if it peters out or not. And we'll see what we can get out of this pocket to show you guys. Some more chiseling and hammering. We just got this little floater that popped off of the calcite. A little flat one. And we got this one with a couple nice decent sized ones on there. So we've got some of our riverside finds cleaned up. I've already kind of done a video talking on what scapolite is, so I thought I'd focus on the diopside this time. So diopside is a monoclinic mineral that belongs to the pyroxene mineral group. It has a Mohs hardness of 6 and is most commonly found in metamorphic and igneous rock. Now, as far as uses for diopside, in most cases, diopside tends to be what you see in front of you right now, kind of a dull green, dull dark green coloration with maybe a bit of luster. There are Gemmy diopsides, which is one of their uses. If they're Gemmy, they have been cut into gemstones and used in jewelry. It's not as common. I've only found very minimal, very tiny Gemmy crystals before at another different location. At this location that we were collecting at my friend's location, there was some promise, like some of the crystals were getting like less dull, let's put it that way, and the color was getting more uniform and had like a nice dark green color. But in general, they tend to be kind of this dull green color, as seen on this nice little double terminated cluster of diopside. But as far as other uses, in industry, there has been some work done using diopside to create a diopside glass ceramic. And with that ceramic, there has been some promise in the fields of biomaterials, that is, materials used in like implants, like knee implants and stuff. So they're hoping that maybe this diopside glass ceramic will work well in biomaterials. Or I believe I also read that it does show some promise in the fields of nuclear energy, of all things. I don't remember exactly what they were thinking of using it for, but it seems this diopside ceramic glass might have some use in the field of nuclear energy. So as far as diopsides go, these are pretty standard. I like them. They're half decent sized. Some of them have good crystal structure to them, and there's a lot of promise. Like, I just kind of scratched the surface and tried to look for pockets where it turned into like a vein that was eroding out, and I think I was on the right path, but I didn't have all the time in the world to do that exploration. So I also wanted to try out the Scapolite vein that my one of my friends was exploring. So I didn't get to fully explore it, but beside me, one of my friends, he was doing quite well. He was getting deep in there, and he hit a really good pocket of diopside. So this location, I know, will produce some nice, darker, less kind of, I guess you would say, like, less of this dull green and more of like a sharp, darker green. And who knows, maybe even a little bit of gemminess. Now, some of these you can see they still have that weathered calcite on them, so I'm going to do some etching of some of the specimens I collected. I do want to keep a little bit of the calcite on because I think it gives a good contrast, the white versus the green. It's always good to when you etch minerals that you don't do too much, because you want to also think not only about exposing the crystals further, but also what is the most appealing look of the specimen and what will accentuate the minerals that you're interested the most. And if that means you leave a bit of the calcite on to give a bit of contrast, that's what you have to do. Now, where I seem to be digging, there seem to be a decent amount of floater crystals. A lot of the ones that I didn't keep were ones where it just basically the terminations had fully cleaved off. Now, these are ones that are double terminated, or at least have one of the terminations on there. And I'm hoping this is kind of that dark green. And I'm hoping that if I go in the future, this is kind of that dark green color I was talking about. We find something like this, or even better than this. But this is kind of a better example of what I would say are the higher quality diopside crystals. I think the stuff close to the surface obviously just has been weathered more due to the exposure to being on a riverbank. And hopefully the deeper we dig, and this makes a lot of sense, the less weathered the vein of diopside is going to be, and the more vibrant and sharp the crystals will be. Closer to the end of the day, I poked around a vein that a friend of mine was previously working at that day. He had been finding some smaller Gemmy scapolites in this calcite matrix, and I just kind of continued to follow the vein, and I pulled off this pyroxene rich material. You can see there's a lot of green in it, so that green is most likely diopside, and it's just not mineralized. But where this pyroxene rich matrix was meeting the calcite vein, I noticed that's where the largest, sharpest scapolites were forming. Now, I did have to do some chiseling, which means unfortunately there were a couple fractures along the way, but overall I managed to pull out but overall I came away with 2 plates with some very nice, sharp, pretty gemmy looking scapolites. And also these plates have a lot of smaller gemmy looking scapolites, which is quite nice. These are some of the best I've probably found. Though really, I can't really claim the find at all, because it was my friend Jacob who found the calcite vein with the scapolites, and I just kind of benefited once he had moved on to another spot on the property to explore. I came in and kept exploring and kept opening up the vein. But with these bigger scapolites, it seemed like the vein, there was only like a little pocketed area of the calcite vein that seemed to produce the big ones, and then it went back down to the small ones. Because when I was pulling off this pyroxene material, a lot of the stuff ended up being like plates of smaller scapolites in the calcite. But these were the 2 bigger scapolite crystal plates that I took home. Overall, I would say this trip was a good success. I want to thank my friend Aaron again for allowing us to come to his private property and access it and collect on his property. I really appreciate that. You don't always get that. Sometimes you'll get permission, like I've gotten permission to go on private property before, but it's rarer and rarer nowadays. So many people are very skeptical and sketched out by collectors just due to like bad experiences and bad apples in the past ruining that sort of experience. So I'm very thankful that Aaron was willing to take us, his friends, onto his property and show us around and let us collect. But since we've got it to the end of the video, please, in the description below, do let me know what you guys found the most interesting in this trip. Did you like the scapolites? Did you like the diopsides? Please do let me know, because I always find that sort of feedback interesting. And please, folks, just have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys in the next video.